Hi, I'm Dr. Jack Newkirk. You can refer to me as Dr. Jack. I wanted to show you an ecosystem or what I refer to as an ecosystem for our class environmental systems. If you look behind me, you can see big tall weeds, and if you look to my left, you'll see little short weeds. The little short ones is where I mowed before we got these last rains. The lawnmower broke, and so on the right we have the big tall ones. But within this whole area is referred to an ecosystem. Here is a yucca and a dead yucca and a live yucca. That's all part of the ecosystem. If we'll look a little bit further to my left, there's a mesquite tree. It's part of the system. You can look a little bit back. You can see some dead yucca behind the mesquite tree. And they have old seed pods from last year. If we'll look closely at these dead ones, you can see wormholes. The yucca, in order to reproduce, is dependent upon a moth. The moth lays eggs. The worm goes on the yucca and fertilize, and because of the worm, it fertilizes the seed, and then the yucca seed can be fertile. You can see where the holes are. These seed pods are closed up. When they get ripe, they open up and the yucca seeds fall out and then grow all over and become baby yucca. And we have baby yucca in the place. Here's a young one here. There are some other ones that look like that, except they're only very, very small. Here's another little bush that's part of the system. Here's a weed, different kind of weed that's part of the system. Here's some grass. Here's another weed. All of these interact in an ecosystem. These big tall ones in the back are sunflowers. I left those because they will grow into a big stem, and then I can make wood out of that big stem and make little things out of it. These little ones, I didn't intend to leave them, but you can see how they grow so fast, and they will look like that before long. If you'll open up the area, you can see different. Here's a different weed. Here's a this one here is called kocha weed. It grows big and tall. That's what these tall ones are that are different shape than the yucca. If you look closely, you can see grasshoppers. I don't see any right at the moment. There's one right there. Those are young grasshoppers. They're all part of the system. Here's another one. Usually we see a lot of praying mantis in this system. If you look down here on the ground, you can see all these sow bugs, or roly-polies as we call them. They like it moist. So this year, they're all over the place. Last year, this whole area and this spring was nothing but powder. There wasn't anything growing on it. The wind just blew it. It was just like powder, just blew it all over the place. And so with a little bit of moisture, we get all kinds of weeds. I think every weed seed that was produced the last 5 years has sprouted this year, and they're all over the place. If we look here, here's some different little plants. They've got beautiful little white flowers on them. You can, they even have a little bit of milk. It's a type of milkweed, and it grows like ground cover to hold the soil. Whenever we have moisture, all the roots hold the soil in place. When we don't have moisture, it washes it all away, and that's what makes the Canadian River muddy, is all the topsoil it's washing away. We can also look a little further I have altered the environment some here because I planted a little bit of alfalfa. And so this is alfalfa. Has a beautiful purple flower. This is a little weed that I refer to as a wild tomato. We have some, they grow tall and they produce little fruit, very similar to tomato. Here, if you look here, you can see a web. There's a hole right there. Some type of spider lives in that web. It depends on, this is his little environment, and he catches bugs and different things to eat. And so there he's down in that web. Over here, here's an old yucca root. This root used to be alive. This whole area had all kinds of yucca in it, and we cut some of them down because I didn't want yucca. I had to put a whole new septic system in, and this is a leach field, and all these weeds grow up in the leach field. If we'll come over here next to the highway, we'll see a seed pod on this flower. This is a seed pod. The flower is already gone. These will turn into seeds. You can notice this is a grass here. This is called side oats grama because of all the seed pods grow on one side. So it's called, and they look like oats. So this grass is called side oats grama. You can see it growing along here. Again, here's the sunflower, and then here's another weed, a beautiful yellow flower. They have thorns on the weed though. You can see the little stickers, and those produce a little, again, they produce a little fruit. You can see that little thorny pod there. You can see it right down there. See that little pod-like structure that's got all the thorns on it? That's part of the seed. You can see them developing on that plant. When those develop, they'll break and scatter seeds all over, and have a whole bunch of new plants next season. Again, there's a mesquite tree, and in the distance over there you can see an elm tree. In the spring, when it's the elm produces little seeds, and those seeds go all over, and they grow up into little elm trees. I've transplanted some on this place, so I have little elm trees all around. But if you notice, as I walk through here, you can see the grasshoppers just hopping all over. They're a vital part of this environmental system. Here's another type of grass. This grass produces long rhizome type structures and spreads out over a big area. Here's another little plant over here that these are little vine type structure. They grow wild. They produce a beautiful pink flower. This one is not a very good one. And then they turn into a seed pod like this. That's a legume, some type of legume. Here's another one. It's got all the seed pods. The flowers are mostly gone now because it's later in the season. Here's another type of plant. Again, there's an indication of my altering. I tried to plant some Austrian pine trees, and as you can see, this one didn't make it, but I'm trying to alter the environment a little and make a few more trees on my place. You also see this plant. It's got a beautiful little flower on it. Here's another one that's called, we refer to that as sheep grass. This one, because it grows pretty wild and it withstands a drought, and so it holds the moisture, holds the soil from washing. As we go up the hill a little bit, we see another plant. This one has it's a long stem plant that grows from the ground, but it produces these long stems and has flowers, little flowers on them, and then those little flowers turn to seed, and they will produce more of those plants. If you look at this sunflower right here, it has a bud on it that will turn into a flower, like those over in the distance have big flowers. Let me go get one of those flowers. This is a sunflower. As you can see, the petals, some of the petals are gone, but this is a flower, individual flower. Each one of these little things in the middle are individual flowers. Those turn into sunflower seeds. These are wild, and so they're a lot smaller than what you buy in the store. But notice here that there's some bugs there. Those are sunflower beetles. They love the sunflowers, and so they're eating this flower. But this thing produces millions of seeds, and that's why you can see this field here is completely covered in sunflowers, because those seeds are scattered by the wind, get covered up, get a little bit of moisture, and they just grow crazy. In the distance there, just above the first level of sunflowers, you can see some Johnson grass. We'll go around this way and we'll get a closer view of the Johnson grass. This is a Johnson grass. You can see it's a broadleaf type grass. It's considered a weed and a pest in most farm fields. This is what the seed looks like, and it just grows. It grows by rhizomes in the ground. It spreads by rhizomes in the ground. It also spreads by seed, and this thing is very difficult to kill out. We didn't have hardly any here when we put the leach field in, and now it's just covered all over. Here's a sunflower. It's lost most of its petals. And in the fall, later on in the fall, all of these will turn into seeds. Here's a little bud that hasn't bloomed yet. Here's a young flower. It's got different stages of growth. Here's a more mature flower, and this one, you can see the sunflower beetles in there.